Hey guys, and welcome to the newest episode of Be Hero Presents the Bump Card Wrestling Podcast. I am your host. Oh, geez, let's try again. Hey guys, and welcome. My name is that guy right there, and I haven't done this really in a while, so I don't remember what I'm doing. Hey guys, and welcome to the newest episode of Be Hero Presents the Bump Card Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Brian, and with me tonight is my tag partner, Psycho. How are you tonight? For fuck.
Are you okay there? Gosh, you're rusty.
My brain is all over the place. No, I've got so much other crap on my mind right now. All right, let's try this again. Hey guys, and welcome to the newest episode of Be Hero Presents the Bump Card Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, as always, Brian, and with me tonight is my tag partner, Psycho. How you doing tonight, Psycho?
I'm doing good. You ever feel like you're having deja vu, or you're in the movie Groundhog Day? I don't know why, but I'm feeling that way.
Oh, yeah, especially when you're taping something and the idiot who's hosting it has to re-record the intro 4 times. I definitely feel that. Oh.
Yes. Well, we're here. We got it. I'm back from my cruise, or, as we affectionately called it, missing the hurricane. So, yeah, good times.
Yep. Missing the hurricane, having to split a bunk bed with your son and your girlfriend.
We didn't split the bunk bed. Like I had a twin bed, my girlfriend had a twin bed, and my son had a bunk bed, which he slept in half the time. So he did like climbing up onto it though, and down. So
you both had separate twins? Like,
yeah.
Did you do the whole Lucy and Ricky kind of scenario?
Yes, so we had thought it was going to be a queen bed, because usually they can convert the two twin beds to a queen bed, right? And we were assured that's what they could do here, till we got there, and we realized they put us in an ADA room, and there's no way to convert them because there's a desk that's attached to the wall in between them. So, we slept separately the entire cruise. Yeah. So
money well spent.
Yes. I mean, on the plus side, it didn't rain like we thought it was going to. Only for about 40 minutes of the 7 days, when we thought it was going to be thunderstorms the entire time. So yeah, and we changed the itinerary to dodge the hurricane, but we're back safe, and we have some good memories and some bad ones, but yes,
you definitely have memories of all time. So
yes.
All right. All that being said, guys, we are going to go ahead and review Money in the Bank, WWE's Money in the Bank. But first, as we always do, we will be talking the wrestling world news. So, Psycho, hit me with that luscious wrestling news.
So the first news that I have is about Kevin Sullivan, the wrestler Kevin Sullivan.
Relative to...
There's another Kevin Sullivan. I don't know if you know this, Brian. There's another Kevin Sullivan in the wrestling business that is like a producer, or a agent. I forget, something like that. He works. I think he works right now or he was in AEW, and then they let him go. So yeah.
We're talking the Taskmaster.
Yes, the Taskmaster. The one that was in that god-awful pay-per-view that we reviewed last time. Yes. Uncensored 1996. Yes.
He was built actually here last year in Utah for another promotion.
Yes, he was. But he's not doing so good. He's dealing with some health issues. And, he's got a GoFundMe account out there. To help him with some of the complications from it. He's going to have surgery and whatnot. But yeah, sad news for the Taskmaster. Hopefully he is going to make it through, and I wish him a speedy recovery.
Yep, as the rest of us from Be Hero as well. Wish him a speedy recovery. His daughter posted on his Instagram earlier today a pretty, not scary, but a pretty like down post with her and him. He looks like he aged 40 years since I saw him last year. So.
Okay. And just a interesting tidbit, do you know who the number one donor is on his GoFundMe? Who's donated the most?
Bischoff?
No.
Hogan?
No.
Who?
Jim Cornette.
Interesting.
So interesting that he is single-handedly responsible for fulfilling 25% of the funding goal that they had set. So good old Corny. So good for him.
Yeah, you always hear crap about Cornette, but he's gonna be a good guy to the guys he liked.
Right. Which is, as long as their last name is not Russo. So,
I was gonna say there are few and far between the people he liked, but
he liked plenty of people. He also disliked plenty of people. So, but no more than Mr. Russo. So, all right. And then, let's see. Another bit of news, and keep in mind that I was out of the country for a week, so I had to really dig for a lot of news. Obviously, with the AEW pay-per-view the previous week while I was gone, we had a return of Britt Baker, which about time, I say. I think that can only help, and looks like they're building towards a money match of Britt Baker versus Mercedes Moné.
Yep. Well, I'm assuming your news is about why she was not back.
Why she was not back?
Yeah.
She was injured, right? She was dealing with injuries?
So she was initially dealing with an injury, and then she was dealing with a pretty severe medical issue. She had a stroke, a minor stroke.
Oh, sorry, I did not read that. So
yeah, that's why she had not come back until now.
That's sad, but good thing she's back now. So apparently she's all right. And then let's see, another news story, and this happened after the pay-per-view or the premium live event that we're going to talk about and review today. But another return on the female side, but for WWE, Rhea Ripley. So I did watch that clip, and it was really interesting. Liv Morgan and Dirty Dominic, their faces when the music hit, priceless.
Oh yeah, they sold that so well, and they've been doing this. It's been such a great story. It's actually revived a lot of the Judgment Day stuff with this whole thing, and so they did this following the match that they had with it was a mixed tag, excuse me, where you had Zelina Vega and Rey Mysterio versus Liv and Dom, and spoilers, Dom pins his dad, and it turns out that was the first time that Dom has beaten his father.
Yeah,
and so it was a huge thing. So That's when Liv jumped into Dom's arms, and then Dom fell onto his knees on top of her, and we were really pushing that TV 14 rating.
I am really digging this story, and Liv Morgan is fantastic in it. So and
it's the best she's been.
What's that?
It's the best she has been.
I agree. I 100% agree. And I'm guessing with Rhea back that's your SummerSlam match.
Or Bad Blood, one of the two.
Maybe if they, I don't think they would hold that. That's the money match. I don't think they would hold that off, to the B show, because I think SummerSlam's next, right?
It is,
and it's a big stadium show.
I just don't know if Rhea's clear. Like she's there, but I don't know if she's clear, right? Because technically Punk has been there, but has not been cleared.
I guess that is true. I'm not sure if she's cleared. I think that's the match for SummerSlam. Because because you've got Bayley and Nia Jax on the other side of the women. So I think those are the two matches for the women for SummerSlam. But yeah, excited to see about that. So they announced that Bad Blood is returning as a WWE Premium Live event
October 5th.
Yes, which is the original place that the first Hell in a Cell took place at that event. Although back then they were spelling bad with 2 D's, and this one is just the normal spelling of bad. So, but that was the 90s, right? Where they would always spell it with 2 D's, or boys with 2 Z's. So it's that trend is over, I guess.
I'm still holding on to that trend. If anybody wants to follow me on my YouTube page, it is bad with 2 D's, hamster with 2 S's.
Yes, you're still holding on to the 90s, Brian.
Very much so. I had hair back then.
Maybe I need, yeah. I had hair, but my hair got bigger in like the early 2000s. So, and then green. Yeah, and green. And then by 2004, it was pretty much done. So
you still had it when I met you, and I started when I met you was in 04.
Yeah, okay, so the end of 04 is when I shaved it off. So December. So yeah.
I remember because people pointed you out saying that you were the owner and promoter of ACW when I was learning or wanting to come learn how to train, and I looked at my other friend. I'm like, the dude over there dressed as a clown is the guy who runs the show. This could only be good.
It's see, that's how you attract students. Okay, you need to tell Manny that he needs green hair. So
I'm gonna put a pin in that statement, and we'll come back to that off
air. Okay. Let's see here. I think there's some news that we'll talk about during this review. Big news this week. But without digging too far, I think that's the bigger news, unless you won't have any news items you want to touch on.
I have one and only one. While you were on your run away from the hurricane, you missed out on Forbidden Door, which was actually a fairly good AEW, which is always one of their better pay-per-views. And in that pay-per-view, they had a match between Monet and a female worker who's currently the strong champion in New Japan, and she's also from CMLL in Mexico, Stephanie Vakir. And it was kind of like her coming out party, Stephanie Fakir, because not a lot of people nationally knew who she was, and she did amazing, and was super over with the crowd. So much so that AEW wanted to sign her, and she did sign with the WWE, who also reached out for interest in signing. So AEW was very upset about that. But subsequently, New Japan and CMLL were both very upset that she signed with the WWE, because her signing and moving to go to the Performance Center has kind of caused it so she's not able to finish any more commitments that they have with them, and she's currently still their strong champion. So at New Japan.
Yeah. You snooze, you lose, I guess. With signing.
Yep.
They should have signed her that night. Like, if they were really wanting to, they should have been like, all right, here's a contract right here. You're not leaving until you sign this.
I mean, yeah, but whatever they did, it obviously wasn't enough. So
yeah,
but that was minors. You should go back and watch that match, Psycho.
Okay.
Stephanie Pierre did really well. So
okay, I will try to find it. Cool. So, Money in the Bank, huh?
Money in the Bank, which has always kind of been a hit and miss pay-per-view for me. More often hit than miss, but it's such a spot festy pay-per-view. There's not always a ton I remember from the show. And I feel like this is going to be a similar one, where I'm not going to remember a ton from the show outside of specific events.
I think there's a couple of things, and I think they move the stories along really good here.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get into it.
Yep. All right. Well, let's kick it off. What's our first match?
First match is, of course, the men's Money in the Bank ladder match.
Yep.
We've got Jey Uso versus Andrade versus LA Knight versus Chad Gable versus Carmelo Hayes versus Drew McIntyre. I can't do the accent. So,
why'd you even try then?
It's what I do. I do things badly. Okay.
Everyone, the person I chose taught me how to wrestle.
So, I actually, this match was one of the better Money in the Bank ladder matches and smartly worked ladder matches that I've seen in years. Like, usually, like you said, they're car crashes and it's just spots, or it's very sloppy work or taking too much time to set up things. I thought this one, though, the spots that they did were really good spots, but they worked in the context of the match, and I feel like a lot of it was just good storytelling. And it kept me entertained the entire time. And obviously, some of the big spots that I really liked. Obviously, towards the end, there was a spot where Chad Gable was, climbing, and he was holding on to the belts, and they moved the ladder away, and he's hanging there, basically doing the Jeff Hardy thing. And he ends up taking this face bump down to the mat. Very clean, it looked fantastic. And kudos to Chad Gable for doing that. But all in all, even though it was, a good face bump from a good height, relatively safe. He landed completely flat, which is how you take those, Brian.
It's not me. It's thrown out from under me.
Right. But yeah, that's how you take it, and that was a really good spot. And what were some of your favorite spots?
That was definitely on there. There was a couple of big like bumps that they did there. Like Andrade, if I remember right, does a uh, sunset flip powerbomb onto one of the ladders with I want to say it was Hayes, but I can't remember. There
Yes.
was there was a lot of good spots, but there's also stuff that just kind of made sense, right? Like at one point, uh, Drew, like it was right at the finish. Drew grabs down Jay after throwing a ladder into his face while he's on top of the ladder, and pulls him down, and then gives him the claymore on the side. Like it was all sensible stuff.
I liked, by the way, that sunset flip from Andrade onto Carmelo.
Mhm.
That looked fantastic too. Now that one did look a little scary he hit it so it was well executed. One of the better ones I've seen, but still scary spot, when you've got a ladder as your landing pad.
They also had another spot too. Now I think about it, both Andrade and Carmelo, where Andrade and Carmelo goes to do like a moonsault or like a lion salt off the second rope onto Andrade, who was on the ladder. Andrade gets up, grabs him, and then they both moonsault backwards onto the ladder, eating it together essentially.
Was that like a Spanish fly, kind of?
Kind of. Spanish fly is slightly different. They're in more of a rock bottom position where they're facing opposite directions.
Mm-hmm.
This, I would almost say, it was kind of like a Russian leg sweep style moonsault, because they're both laid in that Russian leg sweep back.
Yeah,
both forward. Direction.
That's true. It's very similar though, but yeah, that was a great spot. And then Chad Gable also did a spot where he hit a belly to belly. I'm trying to think of again.
He hit a belly to belly on pretty much everybody but Drew, and on everybody but Drew and Jay, if I remember right. But he ends up doing a belly to belly using the ladder into Jay's face.
Yeah, and then he does one, I think, where he tosses somebody over the ropes.
Who was it? It was somebody bigger. I was surprised who was in this match.
I'm just looking.
It was because he belly to bellies him to the outside on a ladder that's sprawled across the ring to the announce table. Was it Drew?
Gosh, I know I had it in my notes here.
I don't remember who it was, but it was one of the bigger guys that were on there. Maybe Andrade?
It might have been. I can't find it in my notes. Yeah, and there's. Oh, there we go. No, it was LA Knight.
That's what it was. LA Knight. Yep.
Yeah, which it was just an amazing spot there as well. Yeah, I think Drew ends up winning this thing, and it was the right, it made sense, and the story is not over with them, with Drew, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. But great opener, I thought.
I agree, and they also had it where Jay came from the crowd to start the show off, and everything else, which got the crowd hot. I do feel like they're getting ready to make it where they're gonna burn Jay out. He needs to win something probably before WrestleMania, or maybe at WrestleMania.
I think LA Knight is already burned out.
Well, that's what I'm worried about. I think Knight's at that point, and I feel like Jay's going to end up that way.
Like, he's lost all of his momentum. LA Knight has basically, somebody, he fell out of favor with somebody in creative, because I don't know if Now I think about it, I think, maybe when The Rock came back, they're like, we have the real thing. We don't need, the Wish version, and so that might be it. Although maybe the match wouldn't have made sense, but if they could have even interacted for a second, and did some sort of a match, it would have been at least a payoff. But I think he's dead in the water because LA Knight, like at one point, you're like, oh, he's their next star. I don't think so anymore. I don't think they're ever going to pull the trigger on him. I think his ceiling might be a singles title, but a mid card singles title, like the Intercontinental or something.
Yeah, I could see sadly him heading or being like the next Dolph Ziggler in that aspect. And even if he makes the big title, it's going to be like a transitional thing. But I think part of his problem is he's fairly stale as well. Like he's doing the same shtick he did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were talking about how high he was, and he was the number one favorite going into Money in the Bank last year with the same gimmick. Exactly the same. Nothing's changed.
And well, what he really needed was a feud of some type that was a solid, something that the fans could get invested in.
Mm-hmm.
And he never really had that. The closest he had was, I was really looking forward to him versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania, and it just, for whatever reason, it was a good match, but nothing. It didn't elevate him, and sadly, I think that was his peak.
I hope not, because I think he's got more tread on the tires, but they've got to find something, and
he's older though. He's kind of running out of time.
He's got tread on the tires, but he's got to find something soon. So, but with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the next match.
Okay. So then we've got our Intercontinental title match. Sami Zayn defending against Braun Breaker. This match was kind of your typical, your underdog versus your bully type deal. And Braun Breaker, he looked good in this, but I don't know. I think it should have been more of a mauling of Braun Breaker on Sami Zayn. Because I don't think the 50-50 of, being this, trying to have this really great match, I don't think that did anybody any favors. Maybe Sammy, but I think honestly, the way they booked this match, regardless of whether or not you thought it was a good match or not, I think it really hurt Braun Breaker's stock, and how the fans view him at this point, because this was his shot. This should have been his crowning moment, and instead it was Sami Zayn in just another match. I won't remember this, and I hope that Braun Breaker, this wasn't his peak too.
I have more faith with Braun Breaker continuing on. This is actually his first loss on the main roster.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm not going to remember this match even this time next year. But I thought it was a fine enough showing for Braun that showed his power and everything. But I agree with you. Like, he should have gone full Lesnar on.
Yeah, it should have been Lesnar Cena. That's what it should have been.
And then some. Even having Sammy somehow went out at the end, for whatever the reason, would be fine. But to be fair, no point going into this match or during this match did I ever think that Sammy was going to lose.
Really? I thought this was Braun Breaker's crowning moment, that he was going to win the title before this match started. I just thought, okay, this is Braun's moment, but it wasn't. And I just don't know where they're going with Sammy. Like, what's the end game? And maybe there isn't one, maybe, I don't know. Maybe they haven't figured that out yet. But Sammy did gain a lot by this win. because he's starting to be instead of it being an underdog thing now, this is what he does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This might be as high as Sammy gets too, with this title reign. So I mean, good for Sammy. As far as the match, there's not a lot for me that I remember from this match. Just that it was pretty much like 50-50 until Sammy pulled out the win. Maybe not 50-50 because Braun did have more of the match than Sammy, but it wasn't the domination and then he snuck out a win type. It wasn't that.
Yeah, it was 60-40, 70-30.
Yeah,
but it's like a 90-10.
Right. Agreed.
And again, and I think the reason I didn't think that Braun was going to win this is I really didn't feel like the story build-up for the match was really there. So, like, I think that's it. Like, if they continue this feud, which it seems like they're going to based off of what happened on Monday, that they're planning on doing that, then maybe they build that to being a bad blood. That they have the payoff match or something like that for Braun.
They could. They're gonna have to work harder though to get me invested a second time.
Yes.
So maybe. Right. Anything more you want to talk about that match?
Not on this match per se, but the following match that was on Raw after this between Braun and Ilya Dragunov, due to a scenario that happened during a promo with Sammy on Raw. Did you see the clips or hear the greatness that is Pat McAfee?
On that, no.
So Pat McAfee has kind of been very loose lately with his words.
Okay.
And like so much so, like he's been talking about Braun Strowman being one big son of a bitch, right? SOB. And he's been saying son of a bitch. And so much so now it's a shirt that Braun's been selling and is actually putting him up on the top 5 on merch sales in the WWE store. But he, I guess him and Michael Cole were talking about back and forth about Braun Strowman as Braun Strowman was in charge of this match. And Pat McAfee out of nowhere goes, Braun Strowman, or not Braun Strowman, Braun Breaker.
You've been saying Braun Strowman this whole time.
I know, I realize that. It's Braun and Braun. So,
I was so confused. I was like, which one is it?
He's talking about Braun Breaker. And he's like, Braun Breaker, he's just a brick shithouse. And he says it right on air. As he says it, Cole just loses it. He starts laughing his ass off. And he goes, it's 9:58 Eastern, man. You can't be doing that. And I guess when somebody asked after the show to H about it, and they also show the clip after it happens during commercial break, Pat McAfee's like, I'm so sorry. But I guess someone asked H after the show about it. And his response was, yeah, the only thing I could say after it happens is we can't get to Netflix any faster.
Yeah. I'm excited for Netflix, by the way, with that.
Good.
Yeah, they'll have a lot less restrictions. Yeah. But they're already heading that way, so they just won't get fined for it.
Yeah, so right.
We're thrown off the air for it. So next, Trish Stratus comes out, who was hosting the show since it was in her hometown of Toronto.
Yes.
And she introduces John Cena. And so he comes down to the ring, and which was a welcome surprise, but that was not the biggest surprise of why he was there. He announces that he's going to retire, which
Yep.
you kind of he came out in a shirt that says, for the,
The last time is now.
yeah, the last time is now. And so that kind of foreshadowed, but says that in 2025 it will be, his last Royal Rumble, his last Elimination Chamber, and his last WrestleMania. Now he clarified in the press conference after the show that WrestleMania is not going to be his last match. It's going to be his last WrestleMania. He's basically going from January to December. So I don't know if you had heard that, but
I had.
yeah, so he's given us a year, and he says that it's going to be basically a retirement tour, and he's got about, right now they're working on 30 or 40 something dates, which is, that's a lot of people he could wrestle.
All in 2025.
All in 2025.
Yeah, nothing the remainder of this year.
Right, exactly. He's still filming Peacemaker. So, and he was on break, so he came down to announce his retirement.
You saw Punk's promo on Monday.
I did. I don't think we're quite to that, but
no, before that. Uh-huh. But he calls Punk, or he calls Cena out and says that he'd like to lace the boots up with him one more time.
Yeah,
you can't talk about Punk's career without Cena, and you can't talk about Cena's career without Punk.
Yeah, he talked about that in the press conference after too. So yeah, really great. I hope we see that one more time. I mean, there's a whole list of people, and I think that should be an episode upcoming for us. That we can list who we think his opponent should be.
I don't disagree. If you guys want to hear that, let us know. Reach out to us on social media, Be Hero Media, on pretty much everything.
Yes. So. But yeah, he basically, that's really why he's there. So yeah, which was a big thing. And which was funny too, because he says after the show, he's going to, be in the press conference, and he's going to answer any questions that the media has. And then in the press conference, they keep trying to say, all right, one more question. He's like, no, I said I'd answer all questions. It's like, we're not having any of that. It's like, we're going long, it's like, sorry, but we're, yep, we're going long here. And he answers some more questions, and then they're like, one more question. It's like, no, not yet. And so he takes another question. Somebody quick, all right, there. And he keeps going with that. And the I forget her name that's doing it. She's like, all right, I hate to be the heel, but this has to be the last question. Because earlier he was like, man, Paul's going to be so mad at me, and Punk's going to be really mad, because I'm taking his time and whatnot. But he answers the question, and then he's like, quick, somebody just shout something so I can answer the question. It doesn't matter if you don't have the mic, because they stopped giving them the mic and people are just doing it. It's like, all right, next, say something, and and then this one guy asked a question, and then afterwards he was like, can I ask a follow-up question? And Cena's like, that's greedy. This person has a question over here. He had a follow-up question. I'm moving his follow-up question to her, and it was just funny. And then when it came back, because they've kind of done their press conferences now where it's half like recap, a post-show type thing, and half the press conference. They've done it weirdly now, but AEW's kind of copied that. Or maybe they did it first. Who knows? I don't know who did it first, but and they said, "Oh, I'm getting word that John Cena has another question." I'm just kidding. There's no more questions. But yeah, he took a long time answering questions, and he just kept it going.
I saw a little clip of it, but not from his stuff, from Punk stuff. And Punk comes out and Punk goes, "Yeah, I'll be answering questions for John Cena."
Yes. Pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, all right, next match.
Yes. So next we've got Damian Priest defending his World Heavyweight title against Seth Rollins. Now, Damian Priest in the back, he was with Judgment Day, and he basically said, he didn't want them to come out there. And Finn Balor didn't look happy about that. It was like, okay, I forget exactly what he said. I'm paraphrasing. But, and so this match had a stipulation that if Damian Priest won and retained his title, then Seth Rollins would never get a shot at the championship as long as Damian Priest was the champion. And if Damian Priest lost, if Seth Rollins won, then Damian Priest would be forced to leave the Judgment Day. So that was the stipulation imposed here. I thought, before we get to the finish of everything, I thought this match was it was a pretty good match. Sadly, the thing that kind of took away from it was there was a spot where Seth Rollins was pinning Damian Priest, and for whatever reason, the referee counts 2, but Damian Priest does not kick out. And the ref just stopped it 2, and it just looked horrible. And I hate when that stuff happens, because we're taught, in wrestling, it's generally the rule is if they don't kick out, it's on them. Now that's kind of different in the big promotions, because you could screw up when it's a title match, they don't want that to happen, because that changes booking plans and everything. Because then if he had counted 3, Damian Priest would have had to leave Judgment Day. Seth Rollins would have, the match would have been over. There would have been no reason for any of the shenanigans that eventually happened. It would have changed everything. So the referee, he looked like a buffoon. Damian Priest didn't kick out, so he looks weak. It is what it is, I guess. Triple H was asked about that specific moment in the press conference, and he was, because they were like, "What happened there?" And he was like, "Looks to me like Damian Priest didn't kick out." And he was like, "It happens." So it's like, and sadly, that's what everyone's going to remember from this match, and not the, everything before it or after it.
I think we'll get the after as well, but I think it'll always be an asterisk to the match.
Yeah. So during this match, for actually a big part of the match, both Seth Rollins and Damian Priest keep looking towards the entranceway, because Drew said that, Drew McIntyre said that if he, when he won the Money in the Bank briefcase, he was going to cash in that same night. And so they're basically egging him on, like, "Where are you?" And eventually they get their wish, because Drew McIntyre's music plays. Drew McIntyre comes to the ring, hands his briefcase off, and turns this into a triple threat match, which is kind of a nice callback to when Seth Rollins did the same thing. Because it's only the second time where a cash-in made it into a triple threat match. I don't know if I like I get the oh, that's kind of cool, he's basically doing the same thing Seth did, but at the same time I'm like, that just always never seems like a good idea, because if one of the other two pin each other, you've lost your opportunity too. So you're basically giving yourself the same bad odds that they would have in a triple threat match. It doesn't seem like good strategy, and I don't think they were both weakened enough to, make that a good idea. I would have definitely waited until the end, but, if all of this were real, that's what I would do. But
It's done in a way where it's like, in this case, not with Seth's case, but in this case, it kind of adds a bit of a face vibe to it, because he's not the chicken shit waiting for the after the match or after he's already been beaten down. Kind of, right? He's there to face this person, right?
Right.
And I think that's part of the reason why you would do something like that in this scenario, telling the story of that. And I did also enjoy that going into this, like those two kept doing that checkup to the thing, which added to the story of the match of like, oh, he said he was going to do it, and he doesn't lie. Like Drew McIntyre doesn't lie.
Right.
He always tells the truth about everything. So
yeah, and then so the bell rings. It's a triple threat match, and then out comes CM Punk. This time, not dressed as a referee. Oh, we're missing. Go ahead.
You're missing. Like, there's 5 minutes.
Oh, you're right. They do have a match here, a triple threat match, and the referee. Does the referee get knocked down here?
The referee does get no,
not in this one, right?
Not in this one. That's in the main event.
Right. So, okay. So, I mean, they have some. Do you remember any spots here that are worth talking about before we get to the finish?
So first with Drew's going to go for the Claymore on Seth. Goes to hit the Claymore. Seth moves out the way. Goes for the stomp. Gets the Glasgow kiss, like headbutt. Like they have a little bit of a spot. Then Damian Priest comes in, tries to hit the South Side of Heaven. They have a little spot, and then Drew gets out from behind Damian Priest, and then goes for his hits the Claymore. But Priest is not in position properly for it, and doesn't bump off of it. He kind of like clips, like does that clip spin, like when you kind of get clipped and you kind of fall over, and that's when Drew's trying to pull him over to probably attempt to hit him again or something like that. And that is when the Punk comes out from under the ring.
See, I'm a highlight guy. It's like if you want to hear details, go watch the show yourself. But I don't know. But Punk comes in and just goes crazy on Drew McIntyre. With punches and everything, brawling with him. Grabs a chair on the outside and just repeatedly hits him with it, to where he's pretty loopy, and then Drew McIntyre ends up kind of getting in the ring, and Damian Priest. I'm trying to think of what the actual finish was.
Okay, so after Punk's been beating the crap out of him with the chair, McIntyre starts to get into the ring. Punk is heading over there with the chair to continue the beatdown. Looks over and sees the title belt on the podium that they have there for the title belt.
Right.
Puts it down, grabs it, goes slowly up the side on the stairs, is on the apron. Drew gets up. Punk hits him while he's still. He's on. Punk's on the apron. Drew's on the inside. Slaps him with the title belt, and that's when Priest gets up and then hits him with the South Side of Heaven for the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I mean Punk really laid in him with those chairs too. I mean, he was hitting him like he saw a Jungle Boy, but or maybe a Perry relative or something. But
he saw a goat, a scapegoat.
I see what you did there. But yeah, so Damian Priest retains here, and it's really interesting, this whole shade of gray that they're doing here, because all in all, like who's the baby face, who's the heel here, if you really think about it, right? In all of this, it's never has it been more like blurred, that line, and and who's the face, who's the heels, since the 90s, when you were getting like Brett and Shawn and all of that. They were both interweaving out of that, and were Stone Cold, and you know so it's really interesting here what they're doing here. And Punk, it's really funny because Michael Cole, is like basically like yelling, calls him Phil on commentary. Punk acknowledges that the next night on Raw.
What's up with that call using my government name?
Yes. Yes, which was fantastic. But yeah, man, so he screws Drew again, which is giving me all sorts of like Brett and Shawn vibes out of all this. But then Seth Rollins, who was basically collateral damage in all of this, he comes over pissed at Punk, and he's yelling at him. So it reignites that rivalry, because now Seth Rollins can't get another shot at the championship with Damian Priest being the champion. So gosh, great work here. Honestly, this might be my favorite like segment of the whole show, just because just everything that all these guys do right here is so good. It's so good. They're telling this story so well.
It was very good. I was when it happened.
Mhm.
Like the obvious thing was for Punk to hit McIntyre with the belt,
Mm-hmm.
but for a split second, with the way they had the camera angle,
Mm-hmm.
I looked over at one of the other workers, because I watched all of this while we were getting ready for our show that night,
Mm-hmm.
and I looked at one of the other workers. I'm like, what if Punk hits Priest and gives helps Drew win the title, and says, "You only won that because of me," and that ends up making it so that they eventually have a title match for that when they finally have their match, which I thought would be interesting, but I don't know if it would have been needed. I think this was the right outcome that needed to happen, but it was such an interesting concept to think that having Punk help McIntyre win, to have that like stain on McIntyre's title reign for McIntyre would have been
Yeah,
interesting.
I liked this better though, because Punk said as long as there's air in his lungs, Drew will not be champion again.
Yep.
And so that was, and we know, Punk, stop him when he's telling lies,
Right.
but I love that Seth, because I love that stipulation was there, because now Seth has another legitimate reason, the so at the end of the show, right before they were doing the press conference, Drew runs out and is yelling at the camera and is saying stuff like, I know where your family lives and stuff, which is fantastic. And referees are trying to get him to calm down. And Adam Pearce comes out to calm him down and pull him away. And Drew hits him with an elbow. And so Adam Pearce looks like he's gonna go get in a fight with Drew, and Wade Barrett, who was on the panel for the after show, the post show, he gets in the middle and is like trying to calm Drew down, where he's like, "You hit him again and your career's finished." It's like, go to the get out of here, which makes me think that Wade Barrett would be a fantastic manager for Drew McIntyre if they went
Well, they're all
that route.
friends. Like him, Sheamus, and Drew, like they were all friends from back in the day.
That's why I think if they formed some sort of an alliance and Wade was his mouthpiece, or not that Drew needs it because he's doing some of the best promo work he's ever done, but I think Wade Barrett, when he rants on Punk, it's great stuff too. So if you've ever watched him on the post shows, he went ballistic in Scotland, after that show on Punk screwing Drew. So yeah, good stuff there. But So the next night, we find out that Drew McIntyre is suspended for that. And so when Punk comes out and he cuts his promo, he's like basically like saying, he wants him reinstated. He doesn't want him suspended, so that he can get his hands on him. Which great storytelling too to prolong this. There's a reason why they're not getting in the ring with each other right now. Oh, this time it's Drew is suspended, even though we all know it's really to buy Punk more time, and get him healthy enough for that eventual match. But so they're doing this, and then Seth comes out, and I love that as soon as Seth's music hits, Punk just throws up the microphone and goes to the announce table, and he's just sitting on there, grabs the headset, and that's when he dropped the why you call me by my government name to Michael Cole.
When he first walks over, he goes, "This is gonna take a while, so I might as well go earn my paycheck. I'll come over here and talk to you guys."
Right. It's like, this takes too long. Yes. Fantastic. Punk's fantastic there. And so Seth basically, because Punk was, before Seth came out, Punk was like saying to Drew that his actions have consequences, and all of that. And so when Seth came out, he basically threw it back at Punk, called him a hypocrite. It's like, you're one to talk, because that only applies applies to everybody else, but apparently not to you. And Punk gets in and basically offers an apology of sorts, but in a way that he does the apology and then says, but because it's you, how sorry could I really be? And basically it's like that backhanded, or take the Paul's apology back. And then says, hey, it's like, I'm trying to apologize, pay attention, and all of these like things that would really piss someone off if you were doing that in an intense situation like that. And it eventually ends with Rollins saying that, okay, you said that Drew won't be champion as long as there's air in your lungs. Well, I will make sure that you he's basically like, you won't get your hands on Drew, right? Yeah. So he's going to basically stop him, so now it's a triangle basically here, and then Seth ends on a really good note. It's like, because your actions have consequences, which was fantastic. Even Punk looked like he was like proud of that, like that's good. I love this storyline so much. I really do.
So, I am going to throw a little shade on this, and it's only the littlest thing.
Mm-hmm.
During the show on Monday, they also had a promo with Seth and Priest in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of threw out the whole stipulation about him not having to not being able to have a title shot. They literally they walked it back. So Priest is like, "Look, man, I understand what happened and everything else, and once I'm done with Gunther, I'll let you take another crack at this title."
I don't like that at all, because I mean, it seems like they're trying to have Damian Priest be a babyface is what they're leading towards. It seems like maybe Finn Balor and the rest of Judgment Day turned on him or something. But it's like, that just takes away all of the the personalness or the hatred between Seth over Punk. It's like, yes, I know there's plenty of it there anyway, and it doesn't really matter, but I like this storytelling of, you cost me the titles, so now I can't get that, so I'm going to like Punk said, I'm going to get a pound of your flesh,
Yeah.
or you're my focus now.
I was 100% with it too on that same reasoning until they walked it back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they are trying to make Priest a face. He also had a similar face moment with Jay when Jay was his first opponent, being respectful to Jay and talking good things about Jay. Like Priest is essentially becoming a face.
It's happening.
Yeah, it's good. And I'm not sure if I'm there for it. I think I liked Priest as a heel in this aspect, but I think it's something to help him grow too. So we'll see how it goes.
Yep. All right. So then we've got. Let's see here.
The women's ladder match, I believe.
Yeah, women's Money in the Bank. Naomi versus Zoe Stark versus Lyra
Valkyria.
Thank you, Valkyria. Versus Tiffany Stratton versus Chelsea Green versus Io Sky. By the way, I saw this great clip of Michael Cole like doing a press conference for Money in the Bank or something, and he's like, you know, Chelsea Green's up on stage and he's like saying, so then we have Chelsea Green, and she cuts him off and was like, no, you know, and it's like or no, she calls him Mikey Boy and says, my name's Mike, and so Michael Cole says, my name's Michael Cole, so, you know, anyway, Chelsea Green, and she's like, no, and the crowd's booing too, because it's, and he's like, I'm not going to do it like Samantha. And then Michael Cole says, Chelsea Green, and the crowd erupts, you know, and Chelsea Green, like, the reaction for it is amazing. Like, if you can find that clip, if you haven't seen it, it's worth it. So anyway, this match, this one to me was the sloppy spot fest. It did have some good character work in there, but there were a lot of spots that were blown or, you know, looked contrived. This one was one of the first ones where I'm like, gosh, maybe the women shouldn't be in ladder matches. You know, it's just, I don't know if, like, some women are fine with it and they can handle it, but and I hope that somebody doesn't write, you know, or message us and say that I'm being sexist here, because that's not
Psycho Wrestling on Facebook.
That's not what I'm trying to do, guys or gals. But some, I should probably just stop talking on that because it's not going to come out right.
Yep.
But I would prefer if they don't just have these types of matches for women. Like, I'm excited for it, but anyway, I'm digging myself a bigger grave, or a bigger hole. This match, though, it was kind of spotty. I did like the comedy spots that Chelsea Green was doing, where she was like scared of heights, or where she was trying to jump up to grab the belts, but there was no way she was doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, eventually cost her, you know, when she finally had the courage, you know, it cost her at the end, which we'll get to. But there were some good spots in this that looked pretty sick, that were pulled off good. It's just, we went through a lot of sloppiness to get there. Sorry, my mind went in a gutter there. Sorry. But I don't know. This match was okay. The finish was fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, they did this spot where Chelsea Green finally got the courage and was climbing, and then Tiffany Stratton basically tilted the ladder, you know, up, and Chelsea Green took a fall from the ladder to the outside through two tables. Was fantastic bump.
Yeah, she hit it perfectly.
Yes. And so that was probably the highlight for me. Tiffany Stratton wins, and it was the right person going over. I feel she's on, she's got the lightning rod attached to her or whatever.
The rocket attached to her.
Yes, a rocket attached to her. Yeah, you don't want to play with lightning rods, but
We're gonna move on.
Yeah.
My two picks for this and was Tiffany Stratton or Laya Valkyria, because Valkyria also was in the finals to the Queen of the Ring, so it could have been either of them because they're both have the rocket strapped to their back right now.
Right.
I agree. I think Tiffany was the right person. I also think Tiffany's going to be able to play with the Money in the Bank and the promo better with it. I always think that the heel is almost, or heel Money in the Bank holder is almost always the better option because it fits better with that kind of thing. So I think it works out well with her being that.
And I also feel like if you go the babyface route, unless they're going to do a heel turn and it's going to lead to them being a heel like they did with Punk, on Jeff Hardy or something like that. If the babyface wins, they should almost always announce ahead of time when they want their title match and have a match like Rob Van Dam did that to John Cena. That seems to be the babyface thing to do. But we're living in a WWE where there's shades of grays, so maybe if they tell a good story with it, I'm fine with it. But Tiffany Stratton, she's fantastic in the ring. She looks fantastic. Right person, and I'm excited to see where that goes.
Did I ever tell you who she's dating?
Yeah, she's dating. Well,
Kaiser.
I don't know if you told me, but I know who.
Yeah, Ludwig Kaiser.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think this match was fine. This was kind of on par with the majority of Money in the Bank matches. They were fine.
I'm not going to remember any of this.
Exactly. The biggest spot out of this, outside of Chelsea's spot with the tables, was Io Shirai giving a Michinoku driver to Zoe Stark from the top of the ladder onto a ladder.
That one was
basically just died. Like Zoe died.
Yes, that one was good. There was also a spot where it was somewhat sloppy, but Chelsea Green, like, basically they said it was an unprettier. But it looked like basically she just jumped off the ladder, and I forget who it was on, but they just like took a face bump to the ladder.
Yeah, it looked like it hurt Chelsea more than it hurt whoever she was giving it to.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't look like an offensive move from her.
Yeah. But that's actually Chelsea's finish right now is the unprettier, but she calls it I'm prettier instead of unprettier. So
that's a nice twist.
Yeah. So, but yeah, again, the right person won. This match was fine. Not really a whole much more to talk about.
Okay. So then we've got our main event. Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, and Tama Tonga, the Bloodline, versus Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens. And Kevin Owens, obviously dealing with a situation where his mother's in the hospital. Right, so he had that emotion going. I'm going to be honest, when this match started, I was like, it took me 3 days, it seemed like, to get through this one match. Because I was like, I'm not interested in this. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it was a 6-man tag, there's not a lot of stakes. But the match itself was pretty good. The finish was really good, but it was predictable though, with Solo pinning Cody, which obviously sets up a SummerSlam match, I am assuming, with Cody versus Solo, since Gunther's going for the other belt against Damian Priest. But it was good. It moved that story along. I think Solo now, if you would have told me like even a couple of months ago, Solo's getting a big SummerSlam match against Cody, I'd be like, I just don't see him in that place. It was kind of like with Jey Uso. Like, I didn't see him in the main event place, but now, he was elevated, and now he could easily slot into that spot.
Yeah.
But Solo now has been built up enough where I do see him as a serious threat. And, if it's Cody and Solo, like, it could go either way, to be honest. I could see them putting the belt on Solo and then Roman coming back or something like that. But I could also just as easily see Cody retain, and, because he has unfinished business with The Rock, or does the Bloodline Civil War need the belt? When they can have the tribal chief thing going. It's hard to say. So, but I like it though when it's unpredictable like that, where it's like it's a good story no matter which way they go with it. There's other ways to go. And that's when I know, they have magic right now. Oh, and by the way, Jacob Fatu looked pretty good in this match.
I would say he looked better than pretty good. I think this match made Jacob Fatu. It was great for him. Like, just something as simple as the draping DDT, and people keep saying he no-sold it. He sold it, but he didn't. He sold it in a way that made sense to the character. He sold it and ate it for like a half a second instead of just staying dead and getting up for the RKO and having that whole thing. And then Randy was perfect. Did his whole spot, the turn for the RKO, looked down, and then kind of dragged his eyes and his body up to look up at Jacob Fatu. Like, I think that was great. Fatu in general, he was just hitting on all cylinders. In fact, I think the weakest person in this match, sadly, was Tama Tonga.
I mean, I think that's pretty obvious, but not saying that there was really a weak point, just that he probably was the weakest. As far as like the whole no selling that DDT or whatever, it's like he's from the Samoan family tree. They have hard heads. It makes total sense. That would not be the knockout blow that they think it would normally be.
Yeah. And again, it's not like he didn't sell it. He just didn't sell it like everybody else would. Like, he sold it for that split second, enough to register.
Right.
Go on. Like, when I think of no sell, I think of someone who doesn't even really register or so undersells something that it makes it look super weak. I don't think that's what happened in that. But I think I think Jacob Fatu is such a great boon to the storyline.
Yeah. I'm excited. Like, one thing we didn't get a chance to talk about, because I think it happened while I was gone and everything, but I think it might have been the SmackDown right before this, or maybe the week before, the beatdown that they did against Paul Heyman, the Bloodline. Yeah. So good. I watched footage of that. So good.
Yeah, I was super excited. And so I was reading some stuff up on it. So going into that SmackDown, Paul Heyman went out of his way to deprive himself of sleep. He hadn't slept for 2 days going into that. That's why he looked the way he did. That's a person that understands the craft and is willing to do what he needs to. And it made it look that much better. And the crowd reaction when he utters the "You're not my tribal chief" was so good. So good.
This whole storyline, if you go all the way back to the Roman heel turn, all the way through to now, like the Bloodline story, like the way it's going and where it's branching off, it very well might go down as the greatest long-term story in wrestling history. Like,
I
not
mean,
just WWE history, but wrestling history.
there's what, 5 that might have, like 5 altogether that might have a chance of rivaling it.
Yeah,
And
but I mean, there's all of them usually had a flaw or it fizzled out at, and yes, this isn't over, so it could still, they could, make a big mistake. Like with the NWO storyline, that, up until Sting, if Sting would have went over Hogan, maybe that's a great storyline arc. Although, they added too many people and then they messed up the finish. So it, even though the NWO storyline was great,
Austin McMahon.
yeah, Austin McMahon, that's a good one. The Austin McMahon one, that might be, that's up there for sure.
Yeah, that's in my top 5 for
Yeah.
in that I was talking about. The
But
NW.
this one, yeah, this one's up there.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I think it was all good. I do want to give a shout out. Now we're talking about Bloodline, though, about the passing of Sika Onawai, Roman's father. Wild Samoan.
Didn't we
Passed away.
touch upon that last time?
I don't remember if we did. If we did, it was just a slight touch. We did talk about, or we did do a 10 bell at the show for him.
Mhm.
But I don't remember if we talked about it or not. We might have talked about it even off air, but I don't remember if we did during the show. So that was for like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's okay. We can pay tribute again.
So exactly. I mean, it was worth it. The man was, a patriarch to this bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
So, great man. Yeah. Again, for the whole of the show, I thought it was a fine Money in the Bank. To be honest, most of this show I'm not going to remember next year, which is sad to say. You and I were talking off air. They had the NXT Heat Wave the next night, and I thought that was the better of the pay-per-views, or better of the big shows, PLEs. It just did a bit more to further storylines and help everybody on the club, as well as match quality was really good. The 4-way at the end was really good. They're even also pushing a TNA star on NXT, Joe Hendry. He got a little thing at the end. I don't know if you follow TNA at all, but
I'm not currently.
So they have a star on there named Joe Hendry. His gimmick is very much the Bo Dallas DDP kind of Tony Robbins kind of character, where he's trying to do like the motivational speaker. But he's got a great intro that is stupid catchy. It's called "I Believe in Joe Hendry" and stuff like that. And the video of it starts off with his back's to the camera, and it goes, "I believe in Joe Hendry," and he turns to the camera with a big shit-eating grin on his face. And that turn was actually how they ended NXT's pay-per-view. Was that so? They ended NXT with a TNA character or a TNA star on there, and they're saying that they're going to be pushing or doing more involvement with Joe Hendry as well as other TNA workers. I'm excited to see where NXT is going to go.
No, that's cool. I hope that they really do well, so that I think everywhere is like always better. When all promotions and wrestling is going or is hot. So
Rising tide raises all ships.
There you go.
All right, guys. And with that, we're going to go ahead and come to an end for the night. If you guys have any thoughts about the show, your feelings about the matches or anything, please reach out to us at P Hero Media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also reach out to me directly at Mike Burke DCW on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and Mike Burke Pro on the Twitter. You can also reach out to Psycho at Psycho Wrestling on the Face of Books. And as for Devotion Championship Wrestling, our upcoming shows, we will be at the Sports Bash in Sandy, Utah, today as this airs, and tomorrow, so Friday and Saturday, the 12th and 13th of July. We'll be doing there. We'll be doing some shows during the event, and then doing some meet and greets. We'll be on some panels. It'll be a good time. Additionally to that, next show coming up will be August 3rd, back in session at Light Tree Studios, again in Salt Lake City, Utah. And following that, August 17th, we'll be back up in Ogden for Tussle Time 15. Always a great time up there because it can be a little more on the TV 14 level, which is a good time. And then August 23rd, we'll be at Bar Fights at Aces Saloon. You can get information for all of our events and tickets for all of our shows coming up and everything else at Facebook and on Facebook and Instagram at Devotion Championship Wrestling, on Twitter at DCW Salt Lake City, and on TikTok at Devotion Wrestling. You can also reach out to me on my socials to get information and tickets for those shows as well. All right, Psycho, anything else we're missing out on?
Sleep.
I feel that. All right, guys, for the rest of Be Hero Media, he has been Psycho, I have been me, and this is us tapping out. Have a good night, guys.